Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Alan Ruff and Tam Cowan are with me on this Thursday. Thank you very much for joining us on the show on a regular basis, Monday to Friday. The figures for the podcast and for our move to YouTube have been absolutely superb. More and more people joining the football family, and we'd like to thank you for that. Don't forget, you can hit the subscribe button and hit the bell as well, and give us your thoughts on your favourite team. And last night there was a full card of Scottish Premiership fixtures, so there's lots to talk about. Here are the results, just in case you've forgotten some of them. Certainly it was an eye-opener. Dundee lost by 5-0 against Ross County. I don't think anyone in their right mind would have predicted that, not even Roy McGregor. Hibs 1, Celtic 3, Livingston 1, Dundee United 1, Motherwell 2, St Mirren 2. It was Rangers 2, Aberdeen 2, and then St Johnstone 1, Hearts 1. So that's how it all ended up. Did you predict much of that? We'll be looking at the predictor and seeing how it's changed our head-to-head dramatically. But let's start first of all with that match at Ibrox. Rangers 2, Aberdeen 2. I mean, there were 2-0 in front, Ruffy. Should they have been able to see that game out, Aberdeen?
Yeah, I think they should have. I think if they'd a wee bit more organised at the back, I'm sure they would have. You know, to go 2-0 nothing up at Ibrox is a big lead to take. But that solid Rangers defence that we saw that last year is there no more. You know, I know why he's not playing Alan McGregor, obviously with his age, and you know, maybe he carries some wee injuries there, but I think it's disruptive, you know, switching your goalkeeper all the time. It's disruptive for the back four because it's up and down as well. There's a few people missing there. So Aberdeen got them on the right night, but the penalty kick was a soft one. It's a penalty. He's pulling his jersey, so it's a penalty, and that's what they'll be regretting. 10 minutes to go, you would have thought you'd be able to hold out. And it wasn't to be, but you could see at the end of the night that the Aberdeen boys were more than happy with getting a point, because if you'd have given them a point at the start of the game, they'd have been chuffed. So they went over to the supporters and lapped up everything that was there. Okay, that's all we've got time for. I hope you enjoyed the show, buddy. That's the longest answer ever, and I was actually going to butt in, but we'll deal with all your points in a moment. With
try and get as many words in as he can now, because he thinks he's going to die. It's been a recurring theme in the Thursday show, so he's just getting it all out there now.
Trying to get as many opinions in as possible, although some of them, no surprise, will agree or disagree on them. But first and foremost, it was always going to be, Tam, an emotional night, because Rangers fans were heading there. There was some lovely tributes and, of course, a minute's silence for Walter Smith, and rightly so.
And I have to say as well, because I noticed even some Rangers fans on social media blasting somebody who suggested that the Aberdeen fans hadn't observed the minute's silence properly. Nonsense. It was absolutely impeccable. The Aberdeen fans were great. It was a very emotional night, and I knew, I was obviously at Fir Park, we'll come back to that later, but I knew something had happened with John Beaton when I went on my phone, and social media was awash with photos of the Crown Bar in Bellsill. Yes. That's when you knew, what's happened with John. But you know what, the only thing I'd say to Ruffy, you're right, I've heard many a wise man since saying, yep, that actually was a penalty. It's just that it was very, very strange one. It looked really, really soft, but if a former professional and 3 times World Cup man like Alan Ruff says it was a penalty, it must have been.
Okay, as far as the minute's silence, there were some lovely images, as we mentioned there, for Walter Smith, and I'm sure over the next week or so, when they actually determine when the funeral will be, it will undoubtedly pass by Ibrox. But just a lovely picture. I thought it was just right to show the banner in the background, recognition of all that he's achieved, and the players arm in arm for, you know, one of Rangers' greatest ever managers, certainly in the modern time. Nobody better than Walter, and a fitting tribute on the night. As to the game itself, well, listen, if you're looking for a plot where Aberdeen are visiting, the last man you want to score a goal is Scott Brown. You know,
I absolutely loved his celebration. What is that? What is that? Is it somebody?
I think it would be the Morelos.
I think he was taking Morelos off.
Was he?
You know, another
because
thing
there's no love lost there, and there was, I mean, you like a punt, Alan. There was somebody during the day had said to me that for both Morelos and Scott Brown to get booked, both of them to get booked, 61 it was with the bookies. Oh. Now, it never worked out that way, but I thought that's tremendous odds because they can't stand each other, you know. But first up, where I feel a wee bit, two points I'm going to make here. Why I think we're being a wee bit unfair on Scott Brown, or certainly his critics are, let's talk about the goal first. What a diving header. It was like Andy Gray or Joe Jordan in their pomp, you know. And the second thing was, and I think that's why, you know, certainly talking to a couple of my pals that are Rangers fans, who'd have cut Scott Brown some slack, his tribute to Walter Smith at the Aberdeen press conference was absolutely magnificent, and it had done really, really well with the Rangers fans. But hey, if you're going to have a go at Scott Brown for celebrating scoring a goal at Ibrox as the former Celtic captain, then you're as well stopping for me right now. You know?
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, I mean, I like a noise up, Ruffy, as you well know, especially in a football game. And Scott, shyness that he is, decided to run right over to all the Rangers fans, you know, which is a brave thing to do at the best of times.
And there was a look as well, and he's looking up.
I mean, the other thing about it is, you wouldn't even look at the Rangers fans when you're on the gantry.
Exactly.
So that just shows you how brave you are. But nevertheless, listen, they were 2-0 up, and Rangers fought back. To their credit, and Steven Gerrard, I think at the moment, is well aware that they're just not at it. They're off the boil. Some players are not performing the way he would like. This is what he had to say after the game. We gave ourselves a mountain to climb after we started okay. We conceded 2 really poor goals. The first was a gift, and the second we lost out on a duel. The performance wasn't good enough, and that is on me. We forgot what we do really well, and that is moving the football around the pitch together. We need to reset a few individuals, and hopefully when they start performing better, it will help the collective. So that was what the manager made of it all. So Rangers now dropped points in 3 of their last 4 games, Tam, which just gives you an indication that this season, I think everybody, the general consensus, is going to be a tighter race.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a wee, I must say as well, I mean, I don't have a dug in this particular race, but that's how I was kind of disappointed at Dundee United couldn't get the full 3 points at Livingston last night, you know, because looked as if they were motoring a wee bit. That would have freshened it up at the top end. Yeah. Obviously, Hibs have fallen away a wee bit, but Hearts remain unbeaten, of course. Robbie Nielsen was quick to stress that last night. So, yeah, it's a wee bit a different look. You just wonder, though, if come Christmas, Peter, if it will look like the same old. But as things stand right now, and you know, Tynecastle in their fortress, where they play their home games, being at the centre of it, I'm wondering, and I'm kind of quietly hoping that Hearts can maybe stick at it right through to the spring. That would be great, just to freshen it up.
Yeah, well, I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed the fact, Ruffy, that I've been going to as many grounds as possible to see all the teams and see how they're playing, how they look, you know, if there's blatant flaws in them all. So I've watched them all, and I think we're going to get, you know, dropped points along the way, whereas last season Rangers were relentless. I mean, you want to have a look at you know, some of the stats for Rangers with regards to this season and last season. It's interesting reading. So last season, 9 wins, 2 draws, no defeats, 29 points, 26 goals and only 3 conceded. And look at the change now, Ruffy. 7 wins, 3 draws, 1 defeat, 24 points. But it's the 19 goals scored and 10 goals conceded.
Yeah, I think it's the conceded one, you know, that will be upsetting the Rangers manager. They were pretty tight at the back. If you were to score against them, you had to work really hard for it. That's not been the case. You saw one of the goals last night, which was a bit of a shambles. But, you know, I said that at the beginning of the season, it's good that the likes of Hibs and Hearts, and I think Aberdeen will kick on, you know, and we're not getting the Old Firm running away with 25 points, 30 points, you know. And if they can hang on in there, particularly when they play the Old Firm at home, I think they all think they've got a chance.
Yeah, okay, Stephen Glass reckons that they were denied what would have been a momentous win for them at Ibrox by a poor decision by the referee to award Rangers a penalty.
I'm happy, but I think we could have walked away with more. Obviously there's an incident with a penalty kick. It doesn't look like a penalty kick to me, but other than that, I think we were brilliant defensively. We carried a threat as well. So I'm happy to come away with a point if you give me it at the start of the day, but I'm pretty disappointed the way it's ended. It's a little bit of a coming together, but it's not a penalty kick.
Okay, Stephen Glass doesn't think it's a penalty kick. I looked at it, and if that's a penalty kick, Tam, then I think John Beaton's put himself under tremendous pressure, because we are going to be looking at referees for consistency. And if that's a penalty kick, then soft penalties are coming right, left, and centre. I can't wait for VAR to take that part of it out of the equation.
And that's why as well, it's only fair on the match officials themselves. They only get the one look at it. We keep saying that. And I've always hated the fact that pundits, and I could include ourselves in that, get the chance to look at replays, something that the match officials simply don't get. And then the pundits are suddenly very sage-like, and they can really, oh yeah, that was never a penalty. Oh, that was a penalty. You know, as I say, bring in VAR, and it almost creates a level playing field, and then the match officials can have a good look. But I agree that John Beaton on that evidence last night he's opened a can of worms, and we'll come back to that later as well when I mention in a bit the linesman at Fir Park last night. But if I go back to, coincidentally, the gentleman, it was the referee last night, Bobby Madden. I always thought Bobby had opened a can of worms about 3 seasons ago. It was there was an early League Cup tie between St Johnstone and Falkirk, and whatever the directive had been to the referees over that summer, Bobby Madden gave it was about 4 or 5 penalties in that one game, and it was all about holding jerseys.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, oh, this must be something new that's kicked in. But you know what it's like at corner kicks, Ruffy. I thought, if it's a penalty every time you see that, and then you know what? When we thought it was going to be a record number of penalties that season, it just kind of died out. And my theory at the time, and I remember talking about it on the radio, I thought maybe all the refs had maybe gone into a huddle, if you like, and all the irony. Really?
I know them all.
I thought if all the refs have got it and says, you know what, knock that in the head, because that's a headache for us if we're going to give penalties for that.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, you know, because you know, Aberdeen Rangers is a fiery enough fixture as it is, but if a penalty was given for that exact same instant that we saw last night in the Old Firm game, New Year, we'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah, listen, the good thing about it is I like pundits who've got an opinion on it. Ruffy thinks it's a penalty. I don't think it's a penalty. I think it's soft, to say the least. Do you think it's a penalty?
When I saw it right away, and it was doing the rounds at Fir Park, being passed about on people's phones, I thought, wow, I've never seen a softer penalty than that. But then, as I say, some sensible people whose opinions I heard later, and when they analysed it on Sportscene last night, I don't think there was a definitive angle to see what they were really all saying about tugging of the jersey and stuff, you know. So yeah, it did look soft, but it's a classic thing, Peter. If you're a Rangers fan, you're absolutely screaming for it. If you're an Aberdeen fan, or in the Aberdeen technical area, you're saying it's an absolute joke.
Yeah, and I've got to mention this. This is this is the great thing about our feed. The last couple of days, obviously, people paying tribute to Walter Smith, and the YouTube feed, when we read out most of the messages, you know, it was absolutely fabulous. Just thoroughly decent people, football fans, and 99% of our viewers and listeners on the podcast are like that, Ruffy. But you know, a day later.
Yeah.
A day later it changes, and I've got to read this one out because I love this. Because the point is, you can have an opinion on it. And Gordon McLean says, you wouldn't know, Martin, you're always watching the other side, you muppet. So there we are, we're back to normality.
So you hadn't seen your interview with Walt, or you hadn't seen any interview that
No, I don't mind that. I mean, at the end of the day, I've watched them all. It's not a penalty in my book. That doesn't mean to say I'm the light, the way, and the truth. I don't care. I'll give you an opinion on it. I'll tell you one thing. See, if there is a tug on a jersey in the Old Firm game, as Tam says, and it goes to Celtic, there'll be a riot for that type of thing. If that's a penalty, the game's a bogey.
Yeah, well, the way the first time I saw it, I went, oh, that's awful soft. But then the second time I saw it, and the reason I went for the penalty was I looked at the boy Bates. He never challenged it at all. He knew what he had done.
Yeah.
He knew he'd tugged the boy's jersey. Was it enough of a tug for him to go down the way he went down? No. But it's a tug of the jersey, and it's a penalty. If he tugs it anywhere else, it's a foul.
I mean, a penalty's not the worst punishment. I had a pal that got the jail for having a tug on a jersey. He was a dairy farmer.
I knew I could see it coming. You know, you could just see him.
He said as well.
Up for a volley. Anyway, what about this title race? I think we've got a closer one this season. I've tipped Rangers to win the league.
I think
what do I know, Ruffy? I'm waiting for the guy to call me up again. What about yourself?
I think we all tipped Rangers because of the state that Celtic were in at the beginning of the season, and they were in a state. We knew they needed about 12, 13, 14 new players to come in.
Yeah.
I think some of us reserved judgment until he got his act together and all the players were available. But
No, you didn't. You gave an opinion.
Oh, right, we gave an opinion, right? We said Rangers. Rangers. Oh, Rangers by a mile.
I had Rangers top. And again, we're all talking about how, you know, you at the start of the season, there's wee clubs, teams catch your eye, and I think I agree with Ruffy because I put Celtic down to third, just for a bit of controversy, and I think I slipped Aberdeen into second.
I had Motherwell in the playoff place.
Oh, did you?
Because after the every game.
You know what?
You know, because you're sitting there. But
I was no Gallus Alice. I think I had Motherwell down about 8th or 9th.
Yeah.
But I'm a realist when it comes to that. As long as we're at the bottom two.
Yeah.
Every single year, I'll take that.
Can I ask you this, Tam? And obviously, I know you wear many jackets at the BBC as well. So you can you can adjudicate here as somebody from the BBC. Should we be allowed to change our prediction by January 4th? Should we stick with it? Or do we change by January 4th based on it's the halfway point? No,
I think you stick with it because I actually secretly enjoyed the absolute pelters I got for Livingston fans last season for having them bottom. And so I stick with it. Interestingly enough, and I know maybe come to that game in a second, the team that I had for bottom, I thought it was maybe their turn to finally get down, was Ross County.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have thought that if you watched them last night. Incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, listen, we're going to come to Ross County, we have actually witnessed signs. I mean, I certainly watched them in 2 games, Ruffy. I thought they played some really good football, but just no end product. But boy, there was end product last night. Just out of curiosity, because we were talking about how tight it is, here's the fixture list for Rangers and Celtic coming up ahead of the next Old Firm game. So Rangers away to Motherwell, Ross County, they've got Ross County at home, and then they're away to Livingston and Hibs before Dundee come calling. Then it's Hearts away at Tynecastle, St Johnstone and Dundee United, and St Mirren at home, and then they're away to Aberdeen and Celtic. And then when you look at Celtic, at home to Livingston, away to Dundee, at home to Aberdeen, at home to Hearts, away to Dundee United, at home to Motherwell, and 3 away games, Ross County, St Mirren and St Johnstone, before they have 2 home matches against Hibs and Rangers.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it briefly. I think Celtic probably get the easier of the running. You know, obviously the 3 games away from home before the Celtic Rangers game will be important, but as I said at the beginning of the show, I'm encouraged with the likes of the bigger teams that they are putting up a show, so I don't think there's any guarantees, you know, particularly away from home.
To the point of saying them putting up a show, I mean, Stephen Glass was never going to do it and kind of take on the spirit of Sir Alex, but there's a bit of me still thinking, you know, Aberdeen are a big club, he has had a lot of money put his way. I know it hasn't been happening up to now, but I would even have liked to have seen him going out there a wee bit angrier last night. Not about any decisions of that, but saying we were 2-0 up. We were 2-0 up and we're only going back up the road with a point, you know. Because it's not just enough. I mean, I know the Aberdeen fans clearly enjoyed it, the ovation they gave the players at the end. You would, if you'd have tuned in later, of course it wasn't even on the telly, but if you had have been able to see the late pictures of that, you'd have assumed that Aberdeen had won.
But Tam, I don't know about you, I don't have any problem with Stephen Glass, you know, fighting back and trying to hammer us all. But I think they're just talking a lot of nonsense. Nobody had an agenda.
The agenda, you know, Peter, you know, you joke with me about the amount of Aberdeen fans that are colleagues of mine at the BBC. I can assure you, as a Motherwell fan, Stuart Cosgrove, St Johnstone, there have been many years in the past we've been sitting there almost with an Aberdeen scarf on when they've had a pretty decent team. Think, come on, do something, freshen it up, you know, rumble it up a wee bit, not just Rangers, Celtic, Rangers. But to say that folk had an agenda, I did think that was bonkers, absolutely bonkers.
I think the bottom line is if Rangers or Celtic had went 10 games without a win, we'd be sitting here slaughtering their 2 managers.
Yeah.
If they were still in place. Yes. Because you need to think, again, if they'd gone 10 games without a win,
especially then 5 on the bounce.
Exactly, I don't think they'd have hung around.
I was at Easter Road last night, Ruffy. I thought Celtic were impressive. I thought they could have scored 5 or 6 in the first half.
You were at Tynecastle at the weekend.
Yeah.
You got a wee bit of stuff still through there for the old days. He's never away from Edinburgh these days.
I love Edinburgh. It's just such a fantastic city, Ruffy. Yeah, I would probably have stayed there.
That.
I would have stayed there all my life.
Yeah, you've said that all the time.
Yeah, I would have probably stayed in Edinburgh because it just doesn't suffer the same madness as the west of Scotland town.
I love a day out in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
I love, I like
I loved
staying
the
where I
12
stay,
years
but
out in Edinburgh.
if you can get in with a couple of mates and get through to Edinburgh and stoat about along George Street and all that, duking in and out of places, a nice wee bike to eat and that, maybe even down to Lord's Leith. I love it down there. Brilliant. It's a great place for a day out.
It is. Easter Road, pelting with rain.
Yeah.
Fantastic for a midweek game. And I just thought Celtic were going to give them a rough night, and it proved that way. They're moving the ball better, their defence is better. He's slowly but surely getting this team clicking.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the games this year when they're on top, I think the first 30 minutes they were untouchable, and Rogic was a big part of that. You know, when he's on fire, and everybody else run about him. You know, they're just all forwards that you want to see, forwards with pace, and that wee boy gets into so many positions, good positions. I mean, BBC did a bit on him last night. His movement, he's always ahead of everybody else where the ball is going to go, and he knows the run to make. He knows the place to be. If they all don't get it, I'm going to be there, and it's fantastic to watch. But we've been saying it all year, and Turnbull as well. I've been raving about Turnbull, you know, and some people are saying, oh, he's not living up to what we've saw with Motherwell. Yeah. I think he is. Yeah. I love that kind of midfielder who's prepared to try and have a go at goal.
Yeah, well, he's been off the boil of late. He's slowly but surely getting back into it, Ruffy.
Yeah, no, I think it depends what you're looking for him. You know, I think
I'm looking for him from the stands.
Yeah,
you're looking for him from Phil Hill.
But I mean, I think when you go, you leave a club like Motherwell and you go to Celtic, the expectations are, how much was it again?
3.25 million.
You're going, God, he must be alright. But you've got to bed yourself in. You've got to get used to the surroundings.
It's a class act, though.
Yeah. Ange Postecoglou reckons that's the first half anyway, the best Celtic have played this season.
I thought first half was outstanding. I think it's probably the best football I've played all year, and especially away from home against a good team. I thought it was, an outstanding effort by the lad. Yeah, I mean, coming here, you know, it's going to be a challenge for us, but some positive signs, you know, in both halves about sort of, you know, the team we want to be.
Yeah, I always got worried, Tam. I don't know if they were going for a pie or a coffee, but when Celtic scored the third goal, coming down from the stands, I was wondering where they were all going. I mean, I don't know. You know, if you...
It's the Hibs fans, you mean?
This is the Hibs fans. If you witness your team getting a doing, it's a doing. Just watch the game. You go to football surely to watch the game 90 minutes.
Absolutely. I thought they should have learned a lesson that afternoon at Hampden when it was what was the name of the manager? Pat Fenlon, and they were 3-0 down to Falkirk in the cup semi-final. And you know, a lot of the fans, the Hibs fans, thought that's it. Back to Queen Street Station, away back through to Edinburgh, and of course they came back and won 4-3. But again, that was Hibs against Falkirk. That wasn't Hibs against the Celtic team, you know. So maybe a bit different. I think fans just sometimes get scunnered, and as I say, famously as well, there was loads of Motherwell fans on May the 5th, 2010, who, when it was 6-2 to Hibs at Fir Park, a lot of the Motherwell fans left as well. That's what fans do. And then they missed an absolute treat. So, yeah, I don't agree with it as well. I mean, totally... personally, Peter, and I know we will eventually come to this Motherwell game, but because it was a midweek game last night, because I wasn't dashing for the radio or anything like that, because I was able to spend time in the company of my pals and then see the full game last night and have a wee drink after it, and I just love that. I wouldn't dream of leaving a game early.
No, absolutely. Well, just briefly on that, 2 quick points regarding Hibs before we talk about his beloved Motherwell, which is quite simply, I thought, again, rash challenge from Porteous. You know, he could have found himself in trouble. He doesn't seem to have learnt his lesson, and I haven't changed my opinion on Kevin Nisbet at the moment. He does not work hard enough.
No, I think he actually caused the third goal. You know, I don't know what he was trying to do, trying to be smart and obviously get the ball nicked off him, and Celtic went on and got the third goal. You're right, you know, there is an expectation at Easter Road just now that the supporters think they should be splitting the Old Firm, and obviously with the start they've had to the season, and it's 4 games now without a win, something like that. I just think that they need to get back on the rails. But yeah, you're right, it's tremendous that the crowd is there, 15,000 at Easter Road, Tynecastle's the same. And when that happens, you know, the supporters just think they're going to win every week, and that's not the case.
Yeah, Michael, who's clearly putting the boot in, says, I thought Hibs were a big club. How many empty seats? Match wasn't even televised. Full house, you would think. It was a dreadful night, to be perfectly honest with you, Robbie. But there was a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people coming in late because the traffic and travelling conditions were poor. Yeah. But to the actual performance of them, it's not good enough. Four games without a win. Jack Ross, quite clearly, not wanting to shirk it, says the pressure should be on him from the fans.
I mean, what I would say is that criticism comes in the wake of poor runs, which we're in at the moment. But at the moment, I think supporters should direct it at me. It's my team, my responsibility, my preparation, my direction. So players need them at the moment in that run. They need them to be behind them. So any frustration, disappointment, stadium, and other forums directed at me. Support the players, give them that backing because they're good enough to come out that run because they've shown that for the best part of a year and a half now. But as I said, they can't beat the levels we were first half.
Yeah, and they're up at Ross County, so they're going to have to get their act together. Fir Park, 2-2. God, I feel sorry for your goalkeeper, Liam Kelly.
It was incredible. Spoiled what was, as I say, it was a great day, great night. We'd met up with some pals, and again, you're still enjoying that when you see some old faces post kind of lockdown.
Did you have a few jars?
We had a few jars. The New Century in Motherwell, you know that, Peter, up next to the Rex and Estes chip shop.
Do you know what's great about that place? What? Usually at the weekend, Ruffy, pre-pandemic, not at the moment, but usually at the weekend in that pub, you could go in there and they would always have a
band, music.
They have a band who would play.
He was clever in there.
They'd play the Eagles, you name it.
It's great. Absolutely nice wee pub. We were in there, and then we went to Rod Stewart's favourite Lanarkshire restaurant. Where would that be?
The Claudio's.
The Claudio's, aye. Yeah, we were down there, well looked after by Big Arthur. Hi, if Arthur's tuned in.
Have you been there?
Oh, it's brilliant. Lovely wee Italian. It's top end of Motherwell, but it opened 5 months after Motherwell won the cup in '91.
Hold on a minute,
and it's been going strong ever since. What?
Motherwell's not a place I've ever frequented for social activities.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe I'm away over the other side of the...
It's Lanarkshire's only topless restaurant. All right,
brilliant.
Exactly. But no, I'll take you one night. The three of us will go up one night after a show.
I know we shouldn't be talking about restaurants. What's happened to Guidi's?
Guidi's, I think, a legendary place in Lanarkshire as well. Or in Coat Dyke, just before Airdrie. Aye, the fire. Aye.
Yeah, so that's a
great place as well.
That was good to
But anyhow, there'll be folk shouting at their screens saying, "Come on, get on, mate." But so we did have a good night. We're up to I can't kid John Peters. We were sitting in the restaurant. It was hosing it down outside.
Yeah.
And there was a pitch inspection at 6:30. At that time, fueled with a wee drink and what have you, and enjoying the delights of the restaurant. If it hadn't been called off, we might have just about accepted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Big Arthur, that runs the restaurant, very kindly gave us a run up to the game. We went in. First half, a complete non-event. In fact, when I saw it in Sports Scene last night, it was quite funny. I think all Sports Scene showed was you saw the players taking the knee,
yes,
and then the next minute the caption was up, second half. And it was like, there was nothing happened in the first half. It was honking. It was absolutely dire.
Yeah. What about Tony Watt?
Well, Tony Watt, another 2 goals last night. Yep, won a penalty. I think Stevie Clark, I know I've got my claret and amber tinted specs on, but I think Stevie Clark can do a lot worse at a time when we don't have Lyndon Dykes to give Tony a wee chance, and he's looking at a new deal next year. We're hoping that's at Motherwell. If it's not at Motherwell, here's an opportunity to put himself really in the shop window, but maybe popping up for Scotland, getting a wee goal against Moldova or whatever, But
I think he'll stay. He was in here, Ruffy, and he certainly was happy with where he was.
Yeah, he certainly was. I think he's been travelling a bit enough. I think he's at an age now, obviously his family would want to settle somewhere.
Aye.
And when you're playing well and you're scoring goals and everybody's loving you, why would you go somewhere else?
And you know what, Ruffy, this is already, and it seems bonkers, this is already the longest he's ever been at any club, and in real terms it seems he's barely in the door at Motherwell, but it is the longest period, so I think he has to get settled. He's fairly recently married, him and his wife, she's got a good job, they like where they stay and all that, and he's always raving about the club. So what I would actually urge urge myself, I'm forgetting we're a fan-owned club.
Yes.
It might boil down to me. I want my saying this.
You've got the deciding vote.
It's one thing, we don't chuck a lot of money at players. I can't remember the last transfer fee we paid, and they certainly don't chuck a lot of money at players for wages. But I think we could make a slight exception here. You mentioned David Turnbull earlier, 3.25 million we get in from. We've spent a bit of that, a portion of that, doing various things to the stadium, Peter, and it's a great job's been done. But I think we need to, instead of just, that almost inevitability of a good player leaving again, I don't think Tony Watt will be looking for the earth.
No.
But I think they should sort him out with a decent contract, because he'd be a big loss right now.
Well, he did it with O'Donnell, who was in similar circumstances, settled down with his wife, family, and people around him that he enjoyed their company. Nice area. What more could you ask for, Ruffy?
Yep.
Lanarkshire, best place in the world. What about the penalty? Retake? Come on. I mean, honestly.
I've been rapping on at this for years and years. Why should a goalkeeper not be allowed to move? Just let him come off his line. Let him do whatever he likes. The penalty kick taker has got all the odds stacked in his favour. He can pick the left side. He can pick the right side. Goalkeeper has got nothing in his favour. So coming off the line,
you need to have a limit. You couldn't have as the guys running up to take the penalty. The goalie can run right out and almost on top of the ball.
No, he's got to strike the ball. But I don't know any goalkeeper who doesn't move before it.
I know.
You watch the World Cup, the Euros, everything. Every goalkeeper moves because you've got to anticipate. You've got to take a gamble where it's going to go.
It was a good save as well, Tom.
It's a great save, and I'll tell you what. But he made another, at least 2, maybe 3 great saves after that, which meant we still got a point. But for a start, the penalty itself looked very soft. Yet again, to go back to what I mentioned earlier, one of them that if it's for you, you'll be shouting for it, and if it's against you, you'll be saying, no way, that's an injustice, right? But I basically think here, Peter, that the linesman, when we talk about Liam Kelly and supposedly coming off his line, I think the linesman basically chucked Bobby Madden under a bus, because the minute the linesman would have said to Bobby, he came off his line, retake, Bobby doesn't argue with that. Bobby doesn't have a chat about it. He goes with what his linesman is saying. In the same way as, Ruffy, if a player elbowed somebody, the ref missed it, the linesman saw it, he'd say, number 9, send him off, violent conduct. There's no discussion after that, and that was clearly the case last night. And I feel ever so slightly hypocritical here, because I'm one of the guys, I'm sure you're the same, who for years and years and years all said, I wish the linesman would get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
The guy got involved last night, but I think he got it wrong. There's a lot of great, still, albeit slightly grainy, slightly blurred, photos doing the rounds, screen grabs, etc. But, it's as if his heel was on the line. I'm sure that the match officials all know the rules. The thought that went through my head is, did that linesman forget that all you need to have now is 1 foot on the line? Was it just, a wee brain fart?
Listen, he's been over officious about it.
I never saw where the linesman was. With the linesman on the line, or you know how when it comes to the Euro finals, when it goes to penalty kicks, they all move in and they all stand there. If you think back to that, the Euros with England, every goalkeeper was off the line, and the guy was actually standing.
One of our journalists for PLZ said to us that Liam Kelly was guilty of moving right out of his line for a save earlier in the season. And maybe it's gone against him. Maybe the referees have looked at it and they've had a word and said, look, he comes off his line, be aware of it. It's like somebody saying the referee subconsciously looks at a player who dies and thinks, be aware of it.
Peter, I don't know. It was if you think the great Scottish unit of measurement, the ball hair, that's all there could have been in it last night. And when I'm saying about the linesman chucking Bobby Madden under the bus, because Bobby was getting pilloried, and it was absolutely nothing to do with him, as I said.
Yeah.
But the fans at large, they don't know the linesman's name. A lot of them don't know it would have been his decision. Yeah. So Bobby gets it in the neck. I bet he wouldn't have been chuffed when he looks back last night. I'm sure he'd have watched Sports Scene. I'm sure he'd have seen all the pictures. But the thing here is, that's fine. Let's do that in a Motherwell St Mirren game. I would like to see the linesman intervening and making that sort of decision if he was on duty at the Old Firm game at New Year, because you'd never hear the end of it. See if a Motherwell St Mirren, that'll be swept under the carpet. It wouldn't have been any of the back pages today.
You know what? That's why I love you on this programme, by the way. It really gives us a sense of perspective on it. Listen, we have lots of fans of different clubs, but I think you put across a really good point.
But you know what's going to happen now the weekend? Every time there's a penalty the weekend,
Yeah,
people
of
are
course.
going to go, that goalkeeper's off the line, how
Yeah.
you not stopping that?
And anything that looks, to go back to earlier, like the incident last night that John Beaton was at the centre of, they'll be screaming for a penalty.
Well, listen, last night, Graham Alexander was absolutely fizzing about it. Even this morning in his press conference, slightly calmed down, but still thought it was the wrong decision.
Emotions are running high immediately after a game. I think we all have a real tough job in football. Managers, coaches, players, officials. Just give me time to reflect overnight. And listen, we know the officials have instant decisions to make. It's extremely tough. But we understand where they come from. And we all make mistakes, all of us.
Yeah, I think that was Graham calmed down, just basically saying, it's still a mistake.
That's the longest I've seen him without getting booked.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
every game now he's getting the yellow card.
Yeah, it's a yellow card or somebody sent up to the stand. The one real major scoreline last night that absolutely left me gobsmacked, Ruffy. I'm sitting in the press box at Easter Road and I'm thinking, Ross County, 5-0.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an absolute battering, and some of the goals were really good goals.
I think most of them were good goals. Obviously, there's one mistake for the goalkeeper, but the free kick in particular, that's a goal of the season.
Oh,
Yeah.
That
was amazing.
That is unbelievable. I don't know if it was wind assisted or whatever, but it was a tremendous strike. But you would have thought Dundee getting the points last week there, that there was something to build on, and that's an enormous setback.
Yeah. Is he under pressure?
If he hadn't won that last game, yeah,
good shout.
because at home you can't get beat 4 and 5-0.
Yeah, it was a good point at Tynecastle, albeit they only
Yeah,
had
that's
really.
right. I mean, that's the saving grace. But again, it's all about owners, Peter. It's all about, like I keep saying this, you're better having an owner sitting watching it than an owner in America who just says, we just get beat 5-0.
Yeah.
Who hasn't seen what's happening. He's only going by word of mouth, or what's happening and how they're playing. So
But
that's
even
certainly
in a night with all the
disadvantage.
drama, you're right, Peter, with all the stories that were coming out for Ibrox, Easter Road and that, where we were sitting last night, that was the result that everybody was talking about. It was
But you
incredible.
feel for
4-0
Malky
at
because
half-time.
Malky was under pressure.
Yeah.
If we're talking about James McPake, Malky was under pressure because they're on this poor run. They haven't got a win, couldn't buy a win. But I thought they played some half-decent football and maybe they got their just rewards. Everything clicks for them.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about football, and particularly wonderful thing about Scottish football. There was nobody. You could have checked every bookies in the land, every online betting account. Would there have been anybody who would have had that down as a correct score last night? Dundee 0, Ross County 5. It was great, and I loved, as much as I enjoyed my day out yesterday, all these great stories and incidents and drama and controversy that we've been talking about. Seeing in last night and just actually having a cup of coffee to perk me up a wee bit, sit down in front of the highlights. It was brilliant. It was a great, and again, we need to go back to the whole point that you had the Preston against Liverpool English League Cup when they played their reserves and all that on 2 of the satellite channels, on 2 of the Sky Sports channels, and the Scottish games again were snubbed. Now, if the cameras had been at 1, 2 of the Scottish games, it would have been 1, of course. Maybe it wouldn't have turned out to be as good a game or as dramatic an evening. But again, and I've got mixed feelings on that as well, Peter, because the first thing I thought last night is, albeit it was a dreadful, dreadful night, the weather was hellish, that when you've not got the cameras here, it maybe encourages some people to toddle along and actually go to a game.
I want people to go to the games.
Of course you do.
Yeah, you want them to be
What was
mobbed.
it in Edinburgh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sleek it drawers. Wonder who it is.
Listen, because we try and give a balance to everyone, because, listen, we'll give an opinion. Sometimes you might like the opinion, sometimes you might not, but at least we'll give you one. And I like to read out a lot of people's opinions as well, because that matters. It's football, we love it. Stevie Kerr, who's in Canada, says, definitely we need VAR. Also, we've got one here from James, who says, was there not a chance the foul could have gone the other way for dangerous play, as going in with his head down is dangerous play? I think he's talking about Morelos. I might be wrong there. Also here, there was another one which is to do with the penalty. Peter, it's clearly a penalty, says Jim McKinnon. Jim, if you think it's a penalty, great. I mean, that's
Well, you know what? He's right. It was a penalty.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
can't go back
No,
in
you
time.
can't-
The
you
bottom
can't.
line was it was given, and Willie Young always does the line about, If a boiled egg is soft boiled or hard boiled, it's still a boiled egg.
Yeah.
So if a penalty is soft or hard, then it's still a penalty.
Yeah, and I think Jim McKinnon, James from Blair Gowrie, says, great show, but if Stephen Glass saw the penalty decision from my seat, it was a stonewall penalty. Not soft at all, a clear jersey pull. Jim, I've got no qualms with that. If you saw it from your end, you think it's a penalty, great. The bottom line is, as many a referee sometimes say that's never a penalty, and the ref quips back, read it on Monday, I think you'll find out I've given the penalty.
Yeah, and you know what though, Peter, that's the only thing I would say about VAR. I'm a huge fan, a huge advocate of VAR. I think if we can afford it, it should be brought in, mainly because I'm a big supporter of our match officials, who I think since time began they've been such an easy target. So I would love the system to be brought in for them, but the way that we've been chatting here and bouncing off each other, and the viewers and all that talking about, and last night when we then had a wee drink after the game.
Yeah. Did you ever drink after the game as well?
We went down into the Centenary Lounge at Fir Park.
I'm amazing.
But what I was going to say was that you don't want to take all that away from football when fans love saying, what about that?
Yeah.
If every decision just was, VAR sorted it, and we've got nothing to talk about, you know what I mean?
Well, even with VAR, Tom,
you still will have.
Listen, if we're talking about referees' decisions, St Johnstone won, Hearts won. Callum Davison reckons referees are costing St Johnstone points.
Yeah, I think so. I think I try not basically criticise referees and know how hard the job is, but unfortunately at the moment we seem to have some big decisions going against us, costing us points really. Or costing us really crucial time in games where we've got a chance to win the game, hang on to the game or draw the game. So I thought it was a handball, and I thought it was a free kick on Ali as well.
So he's clearly not happy with the referee, and I don't know about you, Ruffy, but every now and then, managers sometimes you can get a midlife crisis, and your wife says to you, "I think I'll go and buy some trendy glasses for you, and you can wear them." So I think Callum's decided just to finally opt for a pair of really trendy glasses. Is that fair, or is he going welding?
No, they look pretty good.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
And he didn't have them on last night. In the technical area, he's got them on the day, and he's having a go at the ref. Maybe he should have worn them last night.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's Callum. I think Callum's just got them because he saw, we did the double. We've got the 2 trophies in the cabinet. I better start just really looking at part here.
Absolutely.
Hoping the Premiership come to call.
I'm just having a wee look at yours. Are yours the expensive kind of? No. You've just gone for the bog standard. Listen, Liam Gordon's been.
Don't look at me like that again, by the way, right? Liam was for Edinburgh there.
Liam,
actually got a wee tingle.
You're going to get battered. Liam Gordon is confirmed as the new permanent St Johnstone captain. So that's good for him.
Aye, absolutely. Must always be an honour for guys. Were you ever club captain? Or did they not get to goalies in the day?
No, it was once. Betty made me captain. We played a pre-season game at Ibrox, Man City, and I'm having a guess here, Coventry and us played a round robin over 2 nights, and we get beaten the first game, and we played for the 3rd and 4th place, and every team got a trophy.
Right.
And we Betty made me captain in the 4th one because he knew I had to hang about till about 11 o'clock. While everybody went home.
Right.
So I had to get the trophy.
And you, I think it's a rhetorical question, but you would, I'm guessing, you would want the big, stout centre half to be your captain in the pitch, aye?
Gordon McQueen suited me.
There you go.
That's the one, yeah.
That's the type of captain you would like. Listen, St Johnstone are in 10th. It hasn't quite ignited this season for them, has it?
No, I don't think they've recovered for the European games. Before that, they were flying a wee bit, and I think they've lost 2 or 3 good quality players, and his hands have been tied a wee bit because obviously they got some money, but they're sort of using it in other ways to put the players they've got on decent contracts. So this year will be a wee stumble for them, but I think they'll get there eventually. They're always a tough team to beat up there. Yeah,
if I was in January and I was Robbie Nielsen, I'd go out and buy him two strikers, just because I think they're shot shy. I think they don't have enough back up there to come on and change games. There are too many draws for them, or they would be at the top of the league by now.
Speculate to accumulate, Peter. I think that is a saying. They're still unbeaten. They have been rather impressive. Maybe there's folk expecting their bubble to burst and saying, it's just they're a wee bit excited, they just come up as champions, and we've seen this sort of story before. But no, I think Hearts look decent, and if you're man through there, the philanthropist, Mr. James Anderson, if he did want to chuck a wee bit of money towards Hearts, it'd be very, very interesting. But it may depend on how the table looks at the. Is there a winter break this year?
Yes,
there is.
Yeah.
Well, maybe depend how it looks then, and then I wonder if Robbie will get a wee bit of investment in the winter. And then that again for the neutrals' perspective as well. That would give everything a wee extra edge as well.
I'd love to see that happen. Tam, I don't know if you'll still be here, but Ruffy, will you be away for the winter break? Tam likes to
yes, I am thinking about it.
Are you going away?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I don't know what the dates are, so.
Yeah, but you will be away because
obviously I would.
You like 4 holidays in a year, don't you, Ruffy?
Well, I've been restricted obviously with the COVID, so you know I'm just trying to catch up.
But is 4 the norm for you? Four holidays in a year?
3, maybe 4.
3, maybe 4. That's fantastic, isn't it? I
mean, we go out to Auchrane, the brilliant Auchrane resort in the Isle of Arran
for the break.
We always go out at the kind of normally about December the 29th, 30th through to about January the 3rd, and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Great atmosphere, lovely place, lovely people, and again, I'm almost got a wee tear in my eye because we haven't been able to do it the last couple of years, so really looking forward to getting back.
Did you do the whole bit, cycling and around the island?
No.
You
don't listen to my stories about last night. I go there, put on a pair of slacks and sit at the bar and then text Peter to see what he's getting up to in Edinburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a running theme now. Livingston won, Dundee United won. I'm with you, Tam. I would like to see Dundee United it's such a good season for them. I'd like to see them I know that must be ever so slightly frustrating for the Dundee United fans who are really starting coming back out in numbers. They're absolutely loving Tam or Thomas if you prefer Coates. Yeah. What do you make of that?
You know,
what's happening?
Tam Thomas.
Do you think his mum and dad have basically cranked it up?
Aye, but it's a strange one. It was if there was almost a kind of official line went out.
It's like Andrew Cole, isn't it?
And I remember one of my mates, Jack, who sadly is no longer with us. We were talking about him last night, but Jack's dad was a cantankerous old sod. And see if you phoned up with him to see if he was coming out when he was still living at home. Is Jack there? Jack? Who's Jack?
Yeah.
You know, fine, well, who Jack? You know what I mean? But it was that. So maybe Thomas, Coates. Thomas Coates, he's maybe always been Thomas with his mum and his dad. Proud parents, they're tuning into, radio shows, telly shows, and they're saying, Tam, I don't like this,
If you had obviously moved on to BBC London,
yes,
or maybe gone 5 Live,
yes,
would you have changed and gone Thomas Cowan?
No, I would have to have probably gone Tom, because it's the same if you go to like American holiday, and no point saying Tam. If anybody asks you your name, they'll say Tom, because it they just don't know it. You think it's only one letter different, but so you'd need to be Tom, and then the biggest thing is you get into London, because any correspondence I've had from, let's say, the BBC in London, you're immediately down as Cohen. Cowan, they somehow don't seem to know that name down south.
Right.
It then tends to be Cohen.
Right, there you are, getting a wee bit of an insight here, Ruffy. David Martindale says he's going to appeal his sending
What name do you use when you're through in Edinburgh?
I wish I'd stayed through there. I wouldn't get as much hassle for what I used through here.
Yeah, he says he was manhandled.
Who?
Martindale.
Oh, Martindale.
Yeah, he says the fourth official put a hand across his body and manhandled him. So I think that's his defence.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure David Martindale's worse than that. I mean, come on.
Don't go there.
Watch the Shawshank Redemption.
Anyway, here's the Premiership table, Ruffy. I think it's great at the top. There's a good battle going on. There's not too much of a distance between the top position and fourth. Hibs have dropped off, and when you look at Motherwell, are you happy with that position, Tam? Mid-table, number 6?
Genuinely, Peter, top 6 is dream stuff. The very thought of getting a wee European spot is fantasy. But as long as we are above 11th, I'm very, very happy. As I keep saying, and I keep even saying to younger Motherwell fans, I know, in fact, I was talking about it to one of the boys last night at the bar. I says, he was talking about, it'd be great we seem to play St Mirren all the time now, we seem to play, and I says, look, if you want to get down a division, look what has happened historically to Falkirk, to Dunfermline, and all sorts of other clubs. And unlike the big clubs who had recently spent time in the lower leagues, Hibs, Hearts, Rangers, for goodness sake, there's no guarantee with the size of Motherwell that we would necessarily just be able to bounce back. So knock that crazy notion in the head. If you want to go to different grounds and you want to play different teams, leave that for the cup competitions.
Okay, as far as the team of the week, who's made it into Gabriel Antoniazzi's 11? And there you have it, Ruffy. Are you happy with that? Maynard Brewer in goal, Clark, Carter Vickers, Brown. He loves putting Scott Brown in the middle of the back four. Campbell, and then Hungbo, Rogic, Turnbull, Charles Cook, Watt and Brophy. Not a single Rangers player in it this week. That must be a first for Gabriel.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any complaints then. I think the Pick the Boy scored that spectacular goal, which was
Hungbo.
Looking at there,
What
fantastic.
a free kick.
It was
Yeah.
wonderful, but no, apart from that, I think he's got it right.
Okay.
And what was because I did, of course, only see the highlights last night, maybe slightly bloodied, but so Scott Brown was effectively a centre half last night.
Well, he dropped back in at one point,
Right.
you know, but he's
done that before?
He's done that before with Celtic.
Yeah, he was playing in front of the back 4 or 5, or whatever you call him, but he was just helping at any time he needed to.
Okay. Now, as far as the Predictor is concerned, it's hotting up because Tam McManus has hit the bottom for the first time this season. That's what happens when you suddenly work for Hibs TV, Ruffy, and just keep picking them to get results.
I've clearly been relegated.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I was looking for my name there. That's fine, that's all right.
McManus deserves everything he gets after ruining our show on Monday, coughing for an hour.
He coughed through the
so-
entire show. He killed it. Absolutely killed it.
So he deserves it. You know, but I had no points a couple of weeks ago, so...
Well, Tam get no points last night. Every prediction was wrong.
Right.
And I think Alison's still holding on at the top. But, Ruffy, the one thing I think we've got to
Listen,
emphasise...
I'm a very sensitive soul. Where was I there?
Well, we didn't actually include you in the 6, only due to the fact that you hacked me and Ruffy off for a full season, giving it 0-0. And we had a meeting and we said to ourselves, well, we involve him. And Ruffy said, nah. And then he just gave us another catchphrase to go with it, but I can't say it right now. Yeah. But
you want to do it next year?
Well, he'll need to do it next year because obviously
I'm rubbish at
Ruffy thinks he's not going to be with us next year.
Exactly.
As far as the Predictor is concerned, it's hotting up. I think we should make a rule, Ruffy, that the Predictor, the loser takes everybody out for a meal, Tam. But I think it's got to be a certain standing of restaurant that we've had for the last 9 years.
Oh, most
There's none of
definitely.
it because McManus is from East Kilbride. He's hit the bottom. If he loses, we're going for a chippy at the Blue Lagoon. Whereas I think we should be going the
Claudios.
The Claudios would be absolutely fantastic. Elsewhere, I think Pep Guardiola, regarded as one of the best managers in the globe, was full of praise for David Moyes because West Ham knocked Man City out of the cup, albeit on a penalty shootout.
One of the toughest games we play at home was against them. It was the game, I would say, last season that it's one side was better than us, was West Ham last season. And a fight for Europa League. Is doing well in the Premier League. Is doing well in Europa League. Now is in quarterfinals for the Carabao Cup. So we know it. So it's a fantastic team, fantastic manager.
Nice compliment. Fantastic team, fantastic manager.
Yeah, doing particularly well this year, and I think we're all pleased for him. And that's another scalp. They might be a team, that could get to a big final this year. I hope he does.
Yeah.
That would be just...
We've got to get down. Would you come down with us if we? I mean, I could get tickets for us to go down to West Ham.
I'm thinking first. Does Davy Moyes now sponsor this programme? I mean, it's the Davy Moyes loving.
Well, because
he's done great, and I say to you, probably a couple of years ago now on this programme, Peter, that when you saw what happened to Davy Moyes. Very fact the guy's Scottish. When you saw what happened to him at Man United, I think anybody that ever watched that guy in football after it, you were willing him on. Yeah. And he's doing that. And how great must that feel? I know Davy Moyes must almost be blushing to have somebody of the stature of Pep Guardiola talking you up like that, Yeah. If I can just take it right back up, when I was doing my wee tribute to Walter Smith, one of the memories I had, and the pair of you were sitting right in front of me that night at the Sports Writers a couple of years ago, when I did the 30 minutes on my feet, and you two were doing it at the front, which was great for me. If two pals doing it at the front, you can happily slaughter. But when I sat in it, I'm just reminded of that when Pep Guardiola talking up David Moyes, how he must be feeling with that. When I sat down that night, the late great Walter Smith, he leaned out from where he was and he said, "That was great, son." and that was, made you feel,
makes you feel
get
special.
somebody of his stature.
Too right, absolutely. Okay, just before we go, Barcelona have sacked Ronald Koeman. It looks as if Xavi could be the main man ready to take over, Ruffy. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was Xavi, I'd be looking for assurances. They're 1.5 billion in debt. Koeman had to actually work in the most outrageous circumstances. He's watched so many top players leave the club.
He had to get a crisis loan for the DSS at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
It was terrible.
It's unbelievable.
I couldn't sleep last night when I heard this.
Well, this is the thing.
He'll get paid off 100 million, and then he'll walk into another job.
I agree with you, Tom.
No sympathy for these guys.
But I think the problem here is I have no sympathy for him either. I mean, you take the job, you try your best. If it doesn't work out, you get sacked. But if I was Xavi, and I'm saying to myself, well, look at the circumstances he was working under. Am I going to tarnish my reputation by going back to a club I love with debt and not the calibre of player I want to bring in?
Yeah, it seems to be one of the clubs who think they can give a past player a job and everything will be okay. That's all they've did through the years. We'll give one of our great players like Cruyff or something like that, and then other fans will all get on board and we'll start winning. The way that the state they're in now, obviously, as Peter said, with the financial situation, it's a big gamble. But if you've been a player there for so many years, you're not going to say no.
No, maybe not. Okay.
You mean Koeman's most famous free kick?
Yeah.
From a Scottish perspective. What was that? Who did you put it past?
England.
Was it Shelton?
I think
was it top qualifier or something? Was it, or was it actually a final?
I think it's a European Cup final. Was it not?
No. He's talking about the game against England when basically he should have been off the park about 10 minutes before against England. But it was Graham Taylor.
What year was that?
It must have been about 91, 92. I think it was for a European Championships and England didn't qualify.
A great free kick on him.
Yeah, he was absolutely magnificent at the free kicks. Couple of little points I want to read out. First of all, Keith says, Peter, I'm not a Dundee United fan, but I think Thomas Coates comes across as a great guy and a good coach who I think will go to a higher level. Just refreshing to hear his comments after each match. If Tam Cowan is on, get him to tell a story of him at the Motherwell Chippy and the dog incident. Just brilliant.
This is true.
This is true.
Aye, this is true. There was, we can keep, because Lanarkshire boys, I can give you some of the kind of geographical detail here, but it was one I hadn't witnessed this then like that, but my mate, who was actually along with us last night, told us it was a chip shop in Motherwell, which is on Mary Street. It's no longer there now. It's kind of opposite. You'll be familiar with the Hut Blee buffet restaurant, across the road for that, and kind of up a wee bit. And there was an old woman that worked in it back in the day. And this is before a lot of health and safety things had kicked in, and the world was not the way it is today, and hand sanitizer and everything. But old Chippy, and she used to smoke as well. They were popular back in these brown fags.
Yes.
Mind the man's I mean. And she'd be that well, she'd do all the fish and chips, right? And then there was one day apparently, and this was witnessed by my mate, a big Alsatian dog ran into the shop, right? And did its business on the flare, right? And the mum, get out! And she ran out, right? Chased the dog out, and then with a scoop that she used for the chips, right down, chucked it out. I would love to think she then put it in the bin, or it was fully sanitised or whatever, but you can't be sure.
That's a good story.
And if that hadn't been true, I would never have remembered that. I would never. So well done to the boy that requested it.
Well done, Keith. And the final word goes to Robbie, who says, I enjoy your show every day, though not always live. I don't get a chance to watch it live regularly, but I do catch up with it. I get it on the smart TV. So it's a great show with wide-ranging opinions, which come from guys who he thinks, Robbie says, know what they're talking about. I do watch it on YouTube sometimes. The comments are good with great banter, but sometimes others can be out of order. And we do try and ban as many of the nutcases as absolutely possible. You've got a great team. Look forward to watching it. I've got friends in New Zealand, Australia, Canada who regularly tune in to keep up to date with news and views of home. So Robbie, thank you very much to you. And we have a huge expat following on our YouTube channel for this. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you do get a chance. Also, if you download the app now, when you go into the app, it's got submissions. You can actually post a message to us, or you can actually just stay up to date with all the latest in Scottish, English, European and world football. It's all there for you. Simple as that. So hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel and you'll get more of the chat. I thoroughly enjoyed it today with Tam and Ruffy, and hopefully you did too. Join us tomorrow if you can. Thanks for watching.